Arcade games coming to the Evercade was a really exciting development when it was first announced, and after a few releases we've now got several arcade-based collections. Toaplan Arcade Collection 1 was an exciting release a few months ago, and now we have Toaplan Arcade Collection number 2. Now I'm reviewing Arcade Collection number 2 before I have reviewed Arcade Collection number 1 on the channel, just because somehow I didn't get round to it, but we're going to start with number 2 because it's the more recent one, and at some point we'll go back and review the first one as well. The games featured on Collection 2 include Demon's World, Fire Shark, Hellfire, Rally Bike, Twin Cobra, Twin Hawk, and Wardner. If you have both Toaplan collections and put them both into your Evercade VS home console, you'll be able to unlock an extra bonus game, which is a console version of Twin Hawk. Yeah, of all the games to get 2 of, yeah, it's that one. Anyway, if you're an arcade fan, I'm sure there'll be plenty you may like to dive into on this cartridge. But for me, this was an average cartridge collection at best. I didn't know any of the games featured previously before getting the cart, and having spent many hours going through them, I wasn't overly won over by them when it's all said and done. I'll go through each of the games presently to say some individual thoughts on them, but my issue with every single game is the same. Regardless of whatever game you play on this collection, if you get hit by an enemy once, you lose a life. For all the shooters on here, if you take one bullet to your aircraft, it's a life gone. No energy bar, no hit points, no chance. This makes playing the games quite frustrating. I honestly can't imagine trying to play any of these games back in the day on the actual arcade machines if this was the case. The machines would have been taking in coin non-stop if you wanted to complete any of the games. Now, this being an arcade cart, you can insert as many virtual coins as you want by pressing the select button. For some games you'll restart back at a checkpoint, and with a steep difficulty level in some of the games, for me this would mean I would never progress in these games at all. Some games you'll find that even when you die the screen will continue to scroll, and that with each new life you'll be able to continue to make progress. These are the ones that are a better experience, but even still, the amount of times you'll die because of one-hit kills is just crazy. Fortunately, this being on Evercade means you'll have the option to use save states, and oh boy was this a godsend to make any progress at all on some of the games. Now, to be fair, Wardner, a platform game on the collection, does have a Super Mario-like system where you can pick up an item that works as another hit point. Just as Super Mario picks up a mushroom and grows bigger, then the main character of Wardner can pick up a cape, and that works like an extra hit point. The other platformer, Demon's World, also does this, but maybe less so. It didn't feel like I often picked up an extra hit point. To be honest, the platformers are probably the only games on the collection where an additional hit point would have been an excusable thing not to have. The worst offender for this one-hit death situation is Rally Bike though, as you constantly crash in this game. Normally in a racing game, if you bump into the side of the road, or if you bump into another vehicle, you get slowed down, or maybe you take some damage and it will slow you down if you crash too many times, and you may eventually get that your car is wrecked. In Rally Bike, it's straight away. As soon as you bump into anything, then boom, it's like restarting the race or going back to a checkpoint. You don't just get to bump into someone and continue on but lose a little bit of speed. You literally just crash your bike, instantly falling off the bike and having to start back. Crazy. Anyway, I've said all I'm going to say for now about the one-hit lose-a-life situation. Now let's look at what else there is to these games. Demon's World is a platformer which has graphics that look like good Master System graphics or early Mega Drive graphics. You play as a blonde dude with sunglasses, and on levels that continually scroll, you jump about and shoot a flurry of enemies that come at you. Weirdly, the jump animation for the little dude is odd, as he does a split-legged jump every time. It's kind of like Jean-Claude Van Damme. You can do a double jump, but this has fairly specific timing, and if you don't double jump early enough, you won't execute the double at all. You can pick up various weapons which change how you shoot the various demons that populate the world. There are boss battles which are nice and meaty to get your teeth into. You can get occasional power-ups that allow you an extra hit point, but the game is kind of let down by the one-hit kill thing that I said I was done talking about. It just prevents it from being a lot more fun. Something that makes the one-hit kill situation worse in Demon's World is the fact that the game continually scrolls. So that means that there's so much more pressure. Luckily the boss fights don't continually scroll, but the rest of the game, yeah, it's just always scrolling. So it's like the screen is going to bump you off the edge if you don't keep running. This makes it feel like more of a 2D shooter game, which is the problem on this Toaplan collection. All but one of the games just continually scrolls. I guess you could stop your bike somewhat on the racing game, but in that case you do kind of want to keep things going. Next up we have Fireshark, which is one of the better shoot 'em ups on the cartridge. You fly around in a biplane and shoot all manner of enemy vehicles such as planes, boats, ships, tanks, and to be honest I could write the exact same thing about Twin Cobra and Twin Hawk on the cartridge. It's a shame, but I truthfully struggle to tell these games apart, and even having played them all to capture footage for this review, I had to go back and play a few minutes of each game just so I could get which one was which in my mind's eye, just to be able to write the review accurately. All the games have one action button for shooting, your standard flurry of bullets, and another one to drop a big bomb. These are so essential on these games. Fireshark is one of the games that even when you lose a life or a credit, the map will continue to scroll, so if you're smart you can bypass a few enemies just waiting for it to scroll past them. I was pleased that this game just respawns you where you were when you got shot, otherwise this game would have been impossible to get through. Those who love arcade shoot 'em ups will know there are more challenging games in the genre, but this one was still pretty relentless with the oncoming bullets in every direction. Hellfire is one of the better looking games in this collection and is a side-scrolling shoot 'em up, which makes a nice change after all the vertical shooters on the collection. The sprites are nice and big, and although it isn't as good as Truxton, which I really enjoyed on Toaplan Collection 1, this is still a fine example of the genre on this second cartridge collection. The unique thing on this collection is you can choose to change the direction of the bullets at will. Whereas some shoot 'em ups will give you different power-ups that add or change the direction of your shots, you can choose for bullets to go forwards, back, up, down or diagonally, and you'll have to continuously change this to best fight certain enemies. Now, I didn't really like Rally Bike. This was the game on the cart which after a certain amount of playtime I just threw up my hands and said, I'm out. You bump into anything and it resets you back to where you have to try again. And it's not like you have ample space on the road. I really just didn't enjoy this game. It is cool that at times you can jump off ramps to go over big trucks, and as a vertically designed game, it's nice to try in Tate mode on the EXP, but that's probably as much nice stuff as I can say about this one. Weirdly, for a racer, you can run out of petrol as you go around. Now, if you saw my review of Pico Collection 3 on the Evercade, this was also true of Radical Bikers. So hey, it does happen in games, but this game is so unforgiving with your ability to crash and burn at any second that trying to pick up fuel whilst trying to dodge crashing felt nearly impossible. There are pit stops which allow you to stop for a moment and fill up as well, and you'll see if you attend one of these that you get gas from a dude that kinda looks like the main hero from Demon's World, but in my opinion he also kinda looks like a certain former president. He's even wearing a red hat. Twin Cobra is another vertical shoot 'em up, and in it you control a helicopter and shoot all the usual tanks, boats, etc. It's nice that the screen can scroll off to the left and off to the right if you fly in that direction, and this shows you some extra areas you'd miss if you just let the game scroll vertically on its own. My biggest tip for this game is that you should fly continuously around the edge of the screen in a clockwise, or I guess anti-clockwise direction, but as long as you keep going in one direction, hugging the edge of the screen, most of the enemy bullets will just continue to miss you. My other tip is that as soon as you respawn after getting shot, you should immediately use one of your bombs to clear the area. As you'll be chomping through tons of credits very fast, you'll soon realise that you may as well use your bombs quickly, or else you'll more likely than not get shot before you use them. So using them early just means that you get to have a chance to use your second one before you're hit again. Of course, with each life you get new bombs, so there's no real consequence to wasting one of the bombs if you don't, but that's the tip I'd give anyway. Twin Hawk feels older than the other shooters on the cart, but it actually isn't. The game doesn't scroll to the sides and the sprites are generally smaller than on the other games, although they're still nicely detailed. I found the game strangely addictive, although I was trying to get through it mostly for the review rather than that I was truly enjoying it. I don't really know what more I can say about this one other than that I said it feels similar to the other games on this cart. It's not wonderful, but if this game is really your kind of thing, you'll probably enjoy it. It feels like a bunch of other 2D scrolling vertical shoot 'em ups that I've played, and it doesn't appeal to me as one of the better ones. So now that I've given Twin Hawk this absolutely glowing review, I should probably touch upon the fact that you get the 16-bit home version of Twin Hawk on the cartridge as a bonus game if you plug the Toaplan cartridge collections 1 and 2 into your Evercade VS. This version of the game is pretty much the exact same thing, although there are some graphical differences, and it has a menu with a difficulty level setting that you can change and such like. Lastly, we come to Wardner, which is a good platforming game, but not a great platforming game. You go about the levels and pick up items like cash to get upgrades, which you can do at the end of each stage. You can climb ladders and trees, and the platforming is okay. There are plenty of places where you need to jump just right to get the angle. Sometimes you'll also feel that there were cheap deaths in the game, such as climbing a ladder just to have a stone drop on your head. Thanks. I mean, how could you know that would happen there? I guess it's an old school arcade game and they kind of expect you to learn every situation, know all of the levels inside and out. But that simply doesn't fly these days. Especially when there are so many games to play on this cartridge alone, let alone on the Evercade as a whole, and let alone that you probably have a bunch of systems and a huge backlog of games across the different platforms. Still, Wardner is a typical platformer, and it is a fun game which I'd suggest you use save states on to get the best out of. Towards the end of the game, it can be fairly unforgiving, and timing jumps to leap over dancing flames or fight the dragon boss isn't the easiest. So, in conclusion, I reckon Toaplan Arcade Collection 2 is going to be one for players who maybe knew these games back in the day, or someone who absolutely loves their punishing arcade games from the 1980s. If this doesn't describe you, I'd say this is probably one you can miss. If I didn't review these games for the Geek Battle Gaming YouTube channel and for www.extremes.tv, I'd probably regret owning this collection. That said, there is some fun to be had here, but the reward of getting through these games doesn't really equal the effort you have to put in them in the first place. So that's going to wrap things up for this review of the Toaplan Collection 2, and I hope you enjoyed it. If you would be so kind, I'd love for you to smash that subscribe button here on youtube.com/@GeekBattleGaming, and I will catch you for the next review. Do check out the other Evercade reviews I've got on the channel, and if you want to check out other things that I've got some gaming documentaries that are going up all the time, as well as stuff for the Atari VCS, looking at the Intellivision Amico, some retro handheld LCD games, and all other kinds of goodness. So until next time, stay safe, always stay extremed, and ciao for now. Boom, and we're off the air.